Thank you, Will, for the introduction. Let's just jump into this, okay? So I'm doing this workshop, I call it story crafting, okay? The reason why I call it crafting is because it's something you can learn. That's what a craft means. That means you can learn it as a skill, okay? But since you all told me you all don't like to write, today is you don't have to worry about the writing part so much. That means you don't have to must flowery word lah, must impress, must use impressive words or not, okay? We're just going to focus on what it means to tell a story, okay? Now, let me just ask everybody here, what do you think is a story? How do you describe a story? What is a story? Can someone give me a description? What is a story? Anybody? How do you start a story? Like you want to tell a friend a story. How do you... Okay, that's not very original. Okay, good, that's one. The classic way once upon a time, right? But how else? Like when you go mama, how do you tell your friend a story? Exactly. Again, how? Yeah, that girl you know what happened today, you heard or not, that day, that place, don't know what happened, right? Okay. So we all actually understand story. We all know what a story is. And when you see a bad story, you know it's a bad story, right? When you see a movie, it's like, what kind of story is this? You know that a story is bad. But do you know why a story is bad? So that is actually what we are trying to learn today. It's very different to know a good story and bad story and to know why it's a good story or a bad story. Okay? So that's why the idea of craft is important. That means you know. So today I want to try and help you understand the craft a bit so that later when you make assignments, you have something a tool to draw, to use to tell your story later, okay? So, okay. Basically, a story, at the very most basic level, right, there are only two things, all right? It's about character, okay? So you'll see I've divided the board into half, okay? This part is about character, okay? This part is about change, okay? So these two things you must have for it to be a story, okay? I'll give you an example, okay? If you only have one part, let's say character, right? So you go like, hey, that girl, she wear, she every day wear these very sexy clothes, and then she wear the shoes like 6 inches, and then she always talk very loud on the phone, and that's it. Is that a story? Yeah, it's not, right? It's a description, exactly, right? It's a description of a person, right? Why? Because you don't have this part, is it? You must say, oh yeah, and then, oh yeah, I know that girl, yeah. And then you know what happened that day. See, this is how you start a story, right? You know what happened? I saw her, I think maybe she rushing to the toilet, she ran up the stairs, right? And then she slipped with those 8-inch heels, right? She slipped, And I saw everything in slow motion, how she fall from the top of the stairs, And then when she hit the bottom, right? Nothing, she just got out and she walked out again. You know what I mean? So now you can see how a story is formed. So there is character and there is change. Okay? So these at the very least you have these two things, then you are telling a story. Okay? So right now we're going to do a very quick exercise. Okay? I'm going to divide you guys into 4 groups. Okay? I call this the basic storytelling, turbo storytelling exercise. Okay? So right now what you do is you just copy this down. Okay? Once upon a time there was a... So this is the description of the character, okay? Okay, you all just copy this down, okay? So what I'll do is to speed things up. I'll give you the premise, okay? And you're going to tell me a story about this guy, okay? Once upon a time, there was an English man named James, okay? You all can imagine some old Amo guy, right? Okay? So every day, I'm going to give you, he makes roti canai. Okay? So I've given you your character. Okay? So what you do is you just copy this down. Everybody just write this sentence down. So an Englishman named James who makes roti canai every day. Okay, he could be working in a mamak shop. He could be the owner of a mamak shop. He could... Sorry? Yeah. Okay. Someone doesn't like writing, huh? Okay. Well done. Okay, so once upon a time there's an Englishman named James. Every day he makes roti canai. Okay? But one day, this is where your story happens. Okay? This is the falling down the stairs part lah. Okay? But one day. Okay, now I want every one of you to come up with your own version of one day. So every day he makes roti canai, but one day something happens. Okay? You know what I mean? That means something out of the ordinary happened to his life. Okay? Every day he's making roti canai. One day, I don't know, he lost his hands to, you know, a crocodile or something. Okay? That could be your story, yeah? Anything you want to write, be as crazy and as creative as you can, okay? Who boring one, do pumping, okay? Alright, please. One day, what happens?
Each group one story or?
No, everybody one story. Everybody write one sentence, okay?
How much time do they have?
1 minute. Be as creative, anything you like, yeah?
Okay, then switch, right? Then switch.
Only one sentence. The following also, you all just write one sentence, okay? I think you get the pattern now, basically, okay? So, basically, you switch, then you switch, and you switch, and then we see what kind of combo story you come up with in the end, okay? So, everybody got your one day? Can you read the one day that your strange friend has written for you? You can figure out what is wrong with them psychologically from the story they tell you. Okay? Alright, so based on the one day that you read from your friend, okay, make a connection. So because of that, so because of whatever your friend wrote, James had to do this. Okay? Get it? Relate it to what your friend wrote. Because that one day what happened? Because of this, James does what? After, because of what James responded, what happened? So read the story that your friend wrote. Now that James has done this, what happened from that thing that he did? Switch. So as you can guess, now, the pattern is, now he responds to what happened the second time, okay? Catalyst, yeah? Catalyst. Not catalyze, yeah? Okay, so you are at here, right? Have you all done? Okay, next, yeah? Because of what happened, how does he respond now? Okay? Okay, done?
So now is because of that.
The second time, yeah, because of that. Because of this, the second event, right? So you have the catalyst. Now you have, after that catalyst, he responds to the catalyst. Because of his response, something else happens. Okay? So read your friend's story carefully and try and make a connection between what he did and what results from what he did. Okay? Ken, we're done? You got a lot of weird friends, right? Suddenly you realize, right? Okay? Alright, again, switch again. Now, from the second event, what did he choose to do this time? How does he respond the second time? Everyone following so far? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. Wow. Don't be too attached to your story, yeah, because you won't recognize your story by the end of this exercise, okay? Okay? Everyone done? Okay, the final switch. Have you all finally switched? I mean, since everybody has gone through the paper, you can switch to anybody in your group now. Just switch, okay? Until finally, so in the end, okay? You know how you always ask, and then what happened, and then what happened? And then finally how? You know? We are here now, okay? Finally, what happened? What is the conclusion? How do you end the story? Okay? Okay, we have how many? 15 stories. Just like that, we had, in 15 minutes, we wrote 15 stories. Everybody listen, please.
Once upon a time, there was an Englishman named James. Every day he makes roti canai. One day he decided to go and look for Robert Downey Jr. to become an Iron Man. So, because of that, he broke up with his original gay partner, Captain America, which results in the birth of Spider-Man. And because of that, Robert Downey Jr. broke up with him, and until finally he decided to be with the Hulk.
Okay. I see you all conspired on that story. Yeah? That's actually very interesting. That is actually called a theme. Yeah? Actually, yeah, it's a good place to insert a lesson now. Remember the homework I gave you all? The first one that you have to answer, what is the theme of your movie? The theme of your story. What you're going to do later, yeah, the theme, okay? So that's a very good example of a theme, you know? So the theme is superheroes. So that is called a superhero themed movie, okay? Don't worry, okay, there is no judgment here. To illustrate the craft, okay? I'm trying to show you. I want to wrap it up after this, okay?
Once upon a time, there was an Englishman named James. He makes roti canai. One day, he met an accident when he's on the way back to his hometown. Because of that, he loses his legs, which result in no job. Because of that, he don't have any income until finally he becomes very depressed and dies early.
Conjuring, yeah? But actually, to be fair, the last story resembles the story that we all know. It's a more common kind of story. The theme is more real, yeah, more natural. Okay, yeah, it's rooted in reality. So, okay, so from all those that you heard today, right? Do you realize something about, even though you didn't write the whole story, yeah? But it sounds like a story, right? It sounds like a complete story. It means anybody can participate in it, and for some reason you come out with a story, okay? And the secret is this part, yeah? How you make a story. So the character can be anybody lah. It can be an Englishman, it can be a dog, can be a farmer or something, right? So that is how you introduce a character. But how you create a story is the connection between the catalyst to the conclusion. That means how you get from here to here to here to here to here. The more connection, the stronger the connection you have, the more like a story it sounds. So that's why I say the last story that you heard has a very strong resemblance to the story that we know. Because this happens, you know, accident, yeah, everybody has accidents. So we understand, okay, accident. So his leg is broken, he cannot work, right? Because he cannot work, he loses his job. And because he lost his job, he becomes depressed and kills himself. Of course, he can also do other things lah. Of course, not just die lah. Okay, everybody, you know, you all watch too many Hollywood movies. Yeah? Everybody die. Yeah? So let me just continue with what we learned just now. Okay, so we have character, we have change. Okay, I'm going to give you some tips on what makes up a character. Okay, so now everybody has that weird friend lah, right? We all have that weird friend or that weird family member. Or your favorite family member, or your favorite friend, your best friend, right? Someone give me some words that describe that person to me.
Crazy.
Crazy, okay, good.
Cute.
Okay, cute, good. The rest of you have no friends?
What is Hogan Pig?
Huh?
Hogan Pig.
Thick skin?
Shameless.
Shameless, yeah, you're right. Okay. And the rest of you got no friends? Talkative? Smelly, okay.
Funny.
Very good. You got a lot of friends, yeah? A lot of strange friends, yeah, by the way. Okay, so those words, right, you'll realize that they are different flavors of characteristics, okay? So for a person that wants to make a video, right, or make a film, right, there are a couple of things that you have to understand about what a character is when you put on a screen later. So like for instance, if you shoot, let's say Will, or Jackie, or Auntie Wendy later, right? There are things that you can see on the screen, there are things you cannot, okay? For instance, what are the words you use just now? Crazy, yeah? If you put them on a video, and you tell your audience, this auntie is crazy, yeah? Do you think they'll believe you? Understand? You cannot see crazy, okay? Essential are basic things that you cannot see. So how you tell a story about someone's essence, you have to go with, you have to use words like what they love, what they hate, what they want, you know. You understand the idea? That means, okay, let's say James, we talk about James. James likes roti canai, okay? Maybe James loves Indian culture. But you can't see, you look at James, Amolang come to Malaysia, what? Like Indian, you know? You can't see, you see. One look you cannot tell, you know? Because it's inside, yeah? So James, maybe he likes Indian, that one. Or maybe James hates England, right? Maybe he hates England, right? So there are a few essential words that you can use to think about, and later, if you're interviewing someone, ask them these questions, okay? You like curry? No, do you love curry? Yeah? Do you hate curry? Okay? Do you fear curry? Yeah? Do you desire curry? Okay? These are words that help you form your idea of a person, things that you cannot see about them. So things that you don't know, like you look at them, the three of them sitting there, you know, quietly, you have no idea what they love or what they hate, you see. You have to ask them and they have to say. Okay? So later when you interview, if you choose to interview them, ask them these questions, yeah? So this will give you their essential aspects of their character. Okay? Let me move on to the next one, okay, first. Actionable, okay, sorry, my writing, yeah. Action, yeah. Actionable, they are things that you can see in motion. That means they are doing something. So a farmer, right, if he's changkoling, right, you can see, yeah, you know. So you are not going to say he's a tennis player. Of course, obviously he's a farmer, lah, you know. What tennis player, lah, you know. So actionable, yeah, things that you can see in action, things that they can do. So let's say you ask your friend, do you know this fella named James, you know? I hear he likes to make roti canai. So you can see actionable. That is actionable characteristics. That means you can see him doing it. But when he's not doing, you don't know. But only when he's doing, okay? So actionable characteristics are things that you can show. That means when you put a video on them, right, you can see that they are doing it. So later, while you are asking them whether they love curry or not, you can say, Will, can you, while I'm interviewing you, right, can you pluck vegetables or not? So you can see that he's a farmer, right? He's plucking vegetables, but he's talking to you about what he loves. Yeah, I love the soil. I love the feel of my hands in the, you know, with the worms tickling my fingers, you know. So that is actionable characteristics. So you use this later for the way you film someone or someplace. Yeah, okay. And then finally, visual. Of course, that one is usually very clear what a person looks like. Okay. The reason why you would think about this is sometimes you can say, how to make him look more farmer? How to make him look more farmer? I know. Please change his hat, yeah? Don't wear a baseball hat. Wear a farmer's hat, you know? Yeah? Change. Please don't wear your expensive Nike basketball shoes, yeah? Please wear, you know, slippers or boots or something, right? So you visually, they can look more like a farmer, you know? And that's how you tell their story. Because, right, let's say, right, your friend, the crazy girl who goes up the stairs and fall, right? Let's say she's really a farmer, right? But if you shoot her in what she dresses in, right? You cannot tell, you see? So it's confusing. So you're not telling the right story about that person, okay? So think about these three aspects for who you are dealing with, who you are interviewing, or next time you're going to make a movie, this is what you think about, okay? How you create your superhero. See, if you go with a superhero theme, you can that one. Robert Downey Jr., essential. He's very clever, right? Very smart. He creates all these machines, right? Okay? And then what's actionable? He's Iron Man lah. He can fly, he makes things, you know, you see him making things, right? And then what's visual? You know, beard, you know, not very tall, right? You know, so these are the aspects of his characteristic that make him stand out in your story, okay? So you've covered that part. Everything okay? That part? You guys get it? Yeah? Okay? So the second half, not half lah, but the second thing we learned today about storytelling is change. What it means to have change, okay? When you watch a character, the story is what happened to the character. What is the change, right? Yeah, she fell from the stairs and then she broke her neck, okay? So, you know, she didn't die for some reason, so she walks like that all day long, you know? That's the change, all right? So, when you say there is a change to the character. It can be any of that aspect, right? Physical, the neck broken, right? Actionable, maybe James cannot make roti canai anymore, right? He lost his legs or something, cannot make roti canai, right? Essential, maybe now he hates roti canai lah. Roti canai make me, accident, For some reason lah, roti canai make him accident, right? So he cannot work anymore. So change in character is usually the most common way you tell a story, Hey, that fella that day, what happened to that fella? Accident die, right? Change, right? Usually the central change is your character, okay? But also, you can also change other things in your story. Let's say, right, nothing happens to James, okay? But everyone around James change. For instance, one of the stories was run out of roti canai, is it? The world ran out of roti canai, right? Maybe because of James, right, the world ran out of roti canai, For some reason, he, I ate too much, or he bought them all up, and no one else has roti canai, right? So what he did was he changed the world, the community or the people around him. No one else has roti canai to eat because of James, right? So that's another change, okay? Of course, the bigger version is the world lah. That means he managed to get everybody's roti canai in the world and hoard it, and the world has no more roti canai. So the world also has changed, okay? Another world, the way the world can change is whatever that is what you understand about the world, okay? For instance, right, what if suddenly, right, because of James, the world no longer eats roti canai because of him? For some reason, of course, that is how you tell your story, yeah? By the end of your story, nobody wants to eat roti canai anymore. We don't know why. But that's a very interesting story, right? It's hey, you heard about this Englishman? Because of him, the whole world stopped eating roti canai. You know what's roti canai or not? You don't know, right? Nobody heard of roti canai, right? Yeah, you know why or not? I show you this picture of it, roti canai, right? But now nobody eats this, You know why? Because of this person named James. I tell you the story. See? This is how you engage someone in a story. Because of James, the world doesn't eat roti canai anymore. So, James managed to change the world. Okay? Right? So this is what you think about. Another one of your homework that I asked you, right? How do you think your film can change the world? Okay? Something that you can think about for your assignment later is, okay, I want to tell a story about something, but how does it relate to the rest of the world? So a bit of what Will's speech earlier today about community, about business, about health and all that, right? These are all your themes, all the story ideas that you can use to tell your story, okay? Maybe some of you you're interested in health, some of you interested in business, So how would what follow do change business? How will what follow do change your idea of health or your idea of social justice and community? All right? Change the world, okay? So a good story usually has very strong change in all this, okay? And there's one more part that you don't realize that actually changes is when you experience a story where this thing changes, you actually change. So you are the audience. Whoever is watching the video will change as well, okay? A very bad example of the audience changing, right, is if your story is very bad, right, your audience become angry, correct? Hey, you watch a stupid movie, 2 hours, I sit here, got nothing happen. What kind of stupid movie is this? You are changed, you see? They make you change. So the audience also changes, okay? So this part actually, you have to remember, actually happens naturally whether you like it or not. So how this change relate to this, right, is what you think about when you are crafting your story later. Okay? So again, today what I taught you is called Storycraft, okay? Crafting a story, okay? These are the things that a complete story has, okay? So a good movie, a good book, a good that one, right, will have all these things, okay? Character, you all know this as now, okay? Catalyst, remember this word, catalyst? Catalyst means something that starts your story, okay? Accident lah, or alien lah, or whatever, okay? Catalyst, the one day this happens, okay? And because of the catalyst, conflict happens, chaos. That means the world are suddenly upside down. Wow, every day I make roti canai, suddenly cannot make roti canai, okay? Chaos, okay? Because of chaos, your character will challenge the chaos. That means what does he do about the chaos, okay? And he challenges in a continuous way. That means he responds to the chaos. Okay, that means he's not doing things for fun, random, okay? So this keeps going on, and then finally you have a conclusion, okay? So this is the whole map of what every story has, okay? Next time, all your blog posts, all your YouTube videos, all your novels or short stories or films, you can use this for your reference, okay?